Well, after Raiders of the Lost Ark took the world by storm, fans were immediately clamouring for a sequel. I mean, Star Wars was now over, so it's not like Harrison Ford was doing anything.
Right.
This was actually on the cards before Raiders was even released, as George Lucas had convinced Steven Spielberg to direct the movie on the promise that he had already planned out 2 potential sequels. However, when the time came to develop the second film, Lucas admitted that he had lied about this and actually had nothing written beforehand. George Lucas misleading people? Preposterous!
Is this serious?
Both men decided that they wanted the film to have a much darker tone than the first, much in the same way that The Empire Strikes Back had done for Star Wars. Yes, apparently chasing down Nazis and burning their faces alive was just too tame for their liking.
Maybe.
However, Lucas opted to make this film a prequel to Raiders rather than a sequel, as he wanted to avoid reusing the Nazis as the main antagonists. And then for part 3 he was like, fuck that, let's bring the Nazis back!
Alright!
Spielberg also considered bringing back Marion as well as her father, Abner Ravenwood, but decided against this, wanting Indy to have a different love interest in each film. And then they ended up making another one later in the franchise and decided, nah, fuck that, let's bring Marion back! But it is ironic that the series that tried desperately to be different to James Bond decided to go for the exact same trope as James Bond.
And I am sorry.
The original story that Lucas came up with would have involved Indy travelling to China in search of the legendary Chinese Monkey King, but the Chinese authorities refused to allow them to film in the country, so the location had to be changed. Lucas then wrote a treatment set in a haunted house in Scotland. Why did we make this guy famous?
Excuse me, sir. Do you have anything simple?
Well, I think George Lucas is around here somewhere.
I think we got a big problem.
But Spielberg felt it was too similar to Poltergeist, so the setting was finally changed to a demonic temple in India involving a black magic cult and ritual human sacrifice. Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote Raiders, was asked to write the script, but he turned it down because of the dark tone. I didn't want to be associated with Temple of Doom. I just thought it was horrible. It's so mean.
It's also so mean.
There's nothing pleasant about it. I think it represents a chaotic period in both Stephen and George's lives, and the movie is very ugly and mean-spirited as a result. This shoe! Thought so. There was actually some truth to Kasdan's remarks. Both Spielberg and Lucas had recently gone through painful breakups, and both admitted this had an effect on their approach to the movie. In the end, Lucas hired Willard Huyck and Gloria Katz to pen the screenplay, given their knowledge of Indian culture. You know, eating bugs, eyeballs, snakes with eels inside, and monkey brains.
I'm going home to Missouri where they never feed you snakes.
I mean, I lived there for 8 months. They eat weirder things. The original drafts included several ideas that were dropped, including Indy having a young princess as a sidekick, going on a tiger hunt, an elaborate motorcycle chase along the Great Wall of China, and the villain being a Japanese allied Chinese warlord. Even the original title was different, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Death, but Spielberg ordered the title to be changed as he felt it was too foreboding. So Doom is fine, but Death is too dark. Didn't you say you wanted the film to be darker?
But not today.
The script was finally finished in August 1982, but unfortunately the producers were denied permission to film in North India, and the Indian government demanded changes to the script and permission to approve the final cut, resulting in the entire production being forced to relocate to Sri Lanka instead. For the role of Willie Scott... Scott.
Willie is my professional name.
Over 120 actresses auditioned, including Sharon Stone and Bonnie Bedelia, before Kate Capshaw was eventually selected. But even more insane is that 6,000 actors auditioned to play Short Round. And Ke Huy Quan ended up getting the role completely by accident. He had accompanied his brother to the audition, but Spielberg took a liking to his personality and gave him the part. Bet his brother was happy about that.
Oh shit.
Filming began in April 1983, but due to the issues caused by the local government, the production ended up moving to Elstree Studios in Hertfordshire, England, and most of the movie had to be shot on sound stages instead. To make things harder, Harrison Ford damaged a disc in his spine during the scene where Indy is attacked in his bedroom by an assassin. He was shipped off to hospital to recover for 5 weeks, and several of his scenes were instead shot by his stunt double Vic Armstrong.
Oh no.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was released in May of 1984, and though it was another financial hit grossing $333 million worldwide, critical reception was far more mixed than Raiders. Many felt the movie perpetuated racist stereotypes about Indian and Chinese culture, and the film's dark tone and graphic violence was heavily criticised, especially considering its PG rating. This was PG? Man, the 80s were awesome! In fact, it was the release of both this film and Gremlins in the same year that eventually led to the creation of the PG-13 rating in America by the MPAA. Furthermore, the character of Willie Scott was heavily criticised as a damsel in distress, something even Kate Capshaw herself agreed with, calling her nothing more than a dumb screaming blonde. Quite literally, she spends the first half of the movie just screaming and complaining about everything, even a broken nail. Fun fact, she screams a total of 71 times throughout the movie. Feels a lot more.
My pleasure.
Even opinions amongst the filmmakers were mixed. Though Lucas loved the movie for its darker moments, both Harrison Ford and Steven Spielberg were reportedly unhappy with the final picture for the same reason. I wasn't happy with Temple of Doom at all. It was too dark, too subterranean, and much too horrific. I thought it outpoltered Poltergeist. There's not an ounce of my own personal feeling in it. But then he ended up bedding Willie in real life, so at least he got something out of it.
You've insulted me.
However, over the years, the movie began to gain a huge cult following, many fans appreciating how different the film was from the rest of the franchise, loving the gore and violence that the picture had previously been slammed for. But when you think of a much darker and grittier Indiana Jones, isn't this the first thing you think of? I mean, at least they learned their lesson. Even this roasting fork is more intimidating than a sodding whip. The opening 20 minutes is honestly some of the most exciting filmmaking you will ever experience. First, these guys poison Indy, but then he believes he's outsmarted them. Then his mate gets shot. Then he kebabs a guy. A huge fight breaks out. It turns into a Three Stooges sketch as they rush around and get a prize diamond and the antidote for the poison while everyone kicks it around without breaking. Then they have an intense car chase.
Where's my gun?
You have a fucking whip, you'll be fine. Then when they've escaped onto a plane, the pilots are rogue and somehow manage to get out without any of them waking up, and they have to get out to safety. It's such intense and fun action, you barely even get a chance to catch a breather. And yeah, they somehow safely fall in this tiny raft and then fall again off a cliff, and none of them fall out of it. To be fair, despite it being a prequel, there are times that I am so caught up in the action, I again genuinely believe that Indy could die. There's an amazing moment where they're clinging on for dear life to a bridge and the bad guy falls into him, and I actually let out a gasp because I expected Indy to fall to his death. The movie has you on the edge of your seat throughout. It all happens because he's cornered and decides to cut the bridge, but it is pretty funny how he thinks of it. Talk to that kid from the Goonies in Chinese to loop him in, and then really realizes what he's gonna do.
Oh my god!
It is funny that they wanted it to look unlike James Bond, because at points it really does look like a Bond film. But when he uses a massive gong to escape, it is a pretty sweet moment. I just love how incredibly petty Indy is though.
Ever since you got into my club, you haven't been able to take your eyes off me.
Oh yeah?
Whoa, you showed her, mate. He's so cool. Some of the green screens really haven't aged very well. Some are really bad. I guess George Lucas began working on Attack of the Clones early.
Oh, quit complaining. This is expensive stuff.
Then again, kudos for the Obi-Wan Kenobi Easter egg. And for wasting Dan Aykroyd's talent.
It's the best I could do at such short notice.
Indy and Short Round have a lot of chemistry, and it is quite a sweet relationship as it looks up to him so much. They're just really charming together. But why is a grown man hanging around a child anyway?
Shorty's family were killed when the Japanese bombed Shanghai. He's been living on the streets since he was 4. I caught him trying to pick my pocket.
Oh. Well, I guess it's not creepy then.
That's the Maharaja. Kid.
Maybe he liked older women.
That is, though. There's a scene where Indy is about to be force-fed this weird potion that basically works as Buzz Lightyear's reboot button and turns him bad. Until it doesn't. Power of Love breaks it. I don't know, it's dumb. And for some reason he feels the need to grab Shorty to tell him he's back to normal before attacking the guards. Why was that necessary? Just attack the guards.
Thank you very much.
And Shorty sometimes is a bit of an idiot.
Yeah, sure would. Come on.
Good thing the gap in the bridge magically vanishes again though. It's only a nitpick, but Indy does speak fluent Indian and they speak fluent English, but sometimes the script doesn't even make sense if that is the case. Willie doesn't want to eat the food and Indy is worried that they're going to be offended, but surely they can just understand what she's saying anyway. And then it doesn't make sense for them to start speaking Indian randomly to tell the scary story, except for it to mean more when Indy starts telling it to Willie. A lot of people didn't like her character, but I thought she was fine. Yeah, she's annoying as hell at first, but it's hilarious to see her mess everything up. There's a really funny scene where she's running around panicking at all of the wilderness while the guys completely ignore her to play cards. It's brilliant. But why are bats out during the day?
Pancot? I can't go to Pancot. I'm a singer.
And a ventriloquist apparently, because your mouth clearly didn't just say that line.
I can't go to Pancot. I'm a singer.
There is a funny moment where they're about to get it on but resist because they bickered for the whole movie, but both are too stubborn to admit they want it, so they give it 5 minutes and invite each other to their own rooms, even though Indy shares his with a small child. Wouldn't be the first time he has a small child in his bedroom.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
But a cock blocker shows up. My question is, how the hell doesn't Willie hear any of this? Once she's taken care of the guy, he bursts into her room, and it's funny how he's looking for any intruders, but she's more fixated on trying to get laid. Then he ditches her, so I guess she's just got to play with herself now. They enter the Temple of Doom, and of course Shorty just so happens to lean on the exact part of the wall to set off a booby trap and trap them inside. Boy, it's a good thing they left Willie behind for absolutely no reason, because now she can go from not being able to get inside to randomly being inside. But the amount of time she takes fart-arsing about is so infuriating. There is no way they don't get crushed to death. Oh, Kate Capshaw here really was covered with over 2,000 insects. What a trooper. Before she activates the booby trap again. What a dumbass! And why is Indy so obsessed with his fucking hat? Does it give him his powers? And can movies quit thinking women fainting from shock is funny? The thing is, in this one, I do actually like the whip because it makes more sense. He uses it here to hang a guy. He uses it to get hard to reach places, and later on he fakes out recreating the scene in the original, which is really funny and clever. But then he has to use the whip because he has nothing else. Whereas in the first film, it was his go-to weapon of choice despite having a damn gun. In this one, it's used sparingly and only when it makes sense.
Thank you.
The sets look pretty awesome, and the movie has a lot of dark imagery. I love it. I adore the darker tone and love the new direction of the series. But I don't really get the criticisms because the original was also really dark. Although Willie nearly dies in hell in this one, even though the last guy they sacrificed, they removed their heart first, but for some reason they don't need to do it to her, because Spielberg already stole it.
Ah, shut up!
There's so much magic, wonder and charm when he finds the diamond. The movie is just fun. Jesus Christ, never mind!
They're innocent children.
They dig for the gems to support our cause. They also search for the last 2 stones.
And then Thanos will grant us immortality.
You will become a true believer.
And this is why the movie doesn't work as a prequel. In Raiders, Indy didn't believe in anything supernatural, but this is a prequel. It's literally a satanic cult that removes hearts. Indy himself uses magic in this very film, which does ruin an otherwise amazing scene, by the way. It's kind of silly. But how does he go from doing all of that to being non-believer again in a year's time? And what the hell happened to Shorty? He survives this film and then Indy's best mate isn't in any of the others? Surprisingly, this is actually how George Lucas got Harrison Ford to agree to be in Return of the Jedi. But are you telling me that Shorty is the only prisoner who's actually trying to use the tools to break out of his chains? It is a fun and cool scene though when he manages to escape. And Willie is such a brave character, she sends the child to go and save Indy. What the hell? And can movies quit using voodoo dolls already? There's no tension, it's just dumb. They have this incredible sequence as they get chased through the mine, and it is amazing. It's such a unique and original concept with some amazing music to back it up. They even end up fighting during it as well. It is perfect. Indy ends up using his foot to stop it and then ends it with some great comedy.
Water! Water! Water!
And hey, they gave Pirates of the Caribbean another scene to rip off. How nice. The Temple of Doom is a great prequel, and if I'm honest, I prefer it to the original. The few issues I had with Raiders were tweaked here, but overall, although a more simple premise, I was more invested. The action is fun, the characters are likeable.
The biggest trouble with her is the noise.
For the most part, it's just a great adventure, and certainly worth checking out. One 12:15, get to the point.